Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Tom Rivera, and welcome to our project, The Oral History of South Colton. And today we're at 859 Allen Street, the home of Mr. and Mrs. Mel Salazar. And Lucy, Mel, thank you so much
You're
for
welcome.
letting us use your house this afternoon. And today is Sunday, January the 11th, and it's approximately 2:30 in the afternoon. But again, thank you for letting us use your house. And Mel, you're so generous because of some of the episodes that you've gone through recently.
Yeah.
And you're able to be with us this afternoon. So thank you very much. Mel, the last time we got together was January the 7th. At that time, we interviewed at Cal State San Bernardino.
Right.
And we talked about your mom, and your mom being one of the original softball players in this area in the Inland Empire,
Yes.
specifically
The
Colton.
senoritas, yeah. The
And
Mercury
what-
senoritas.
What was the name of the what was the name?
Mercury senoritas.
And what year was that, Mel?
They started playing in 38, 39. And when my mom got married, she got playing ball again because my dad passed away in 45. So she continued playing for the San Bernardino team, which was girls from different leagues, different cities, with the Cherokees. And she played about 3 years with them. And then by that time, she already had my brother and myself were already born.
And then your first project was to make notice and note in history
Right.
that your mom was very involved in the development of softball in the
Right.
area, and you started a project for her to nominate her into the Hall of Fame in
Exactly.
Colton.
Her and the whole team.
And what was the result of your efforts to do that?
Well, I got her in. They voted her in. It was unanimous. There was about 6 commissioners, park commissioners that select them. And there was about 6 entries. But last year, when my mom, they allowed 4 winners. So that was great. But her team was got a unanimous vote. So I was happy about that. Happy and proud for my mom.
And where is the recognition placed in Colton?
Well, last year it was at the council chambers, but this year with my other project that I just finished, they had it there at Gonzalez Center.
And that's in Colton.
That's both in Colton.
Both
yeah.
in Colton.
Yeah.
And when we talked last time, you mentioned that you were getting ready to do a different project.
Yes.
And that project was to look at history, Colton history, and identify some of the old-time Latino baseball players
Right.
from the area.
Right.
What did you find out?
Well,
Well, before we do that, Mel, let me go back. I should have mentioned this before, but why is this project important to you?
it's important because I have found out that, including my mom's team and the team that I'm working they got nominated this year, and next year, a lot of people never heard of my mom's team. I mean, the people that are 90 years old or they're late 80s, they heard about them. But the ones I'm working here, a lot of them didn't because their sons and daughters are in their 90s of this team that I just got in. So people didn't even know they played ball. So I just it's important to me and to Colton that these families know what their dads and their brothers did. And that's what and I just, the biggest motivation that they know and they don't forget. So when these people die, when my mom passes, when I pass, my kids and my grandkids can go to the City Hall or Gonzalez Center and see, oh, look who's there. I didn't know they played ball.
Or I'm related to them in some way
Exactly.
or another.
Oh, yeah.
So you try to preserve
Exactly.
that piece of history
That's my
that has
motivation.
been missing all these years in the
years.
history books of Colton.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Now tell me, what did you find out in this new research that you're doing on the old timers and their contribution to baseball in Colton?
Go ahead and, did you want me to go ahead and read this right now? Or
Would you like to read it?
Yeah, I'd like to read it. It maybe 3-4 minutes, something like that.
Okay.
But it will explain and give you a lot of answers to questions.
And you presented this
This is the
report.
same, this is what I read. And I think this is a big part when you're presenting. For any of the teams or Ken Hubbs or Camilo, you have to have a good presentation. And give them a lot of answers and information, because I worked hard. I went to the library and the microfilm, my eyes were bulging out of my head by the time I got, but I did it in a year's time, so I was able to do that, and I got a lot of information. But let me start with the late great Central's Cubs baseball team. We here in Colton don't realize how much baseball history we have and have had in the past. Well, I'm here to let you know and open your eyes and hearts to the history you don't know about this team. In about 7 or 8 years, it will be 100 years that this team, the Central's Cubs, were all young men who ate, slept, lived baseball. The earliest I have found through microfilm that they were playing was in late 1921-22. 7 more years. That's 100 years. And they were already playing ball. They were formed and put together by the late Juan Caldera. Mr. Caldera not only formed the team, but also built a baseball field for the team, which was Cubs Park, they called it. They called it well, I'll have the information right here, but it was like in 1924. It was located on the corner of Rancho and Congress in South Colton. But across the street was Aguamansa, so same street, just that's what the cutoff name was. Mr. Calera also built a swimming pool for the public, about a block away from the baseball field on 5th Street. He was an entrepreneur in the early 20s. He and his brother Aristeo were the first manager and assistant manager of the team when it first got started. The park was named Cubs Park, but was also known as El Corralón, which meant the corral, which I didn't know because my Spanish isn't that great, but
We understand. We
Yeah.
understand. Go ahead.
because a lot of people didn't know what it was a corralón, I didn't know, but now we know. On this team, in the early years of the 20s to early years of the 30s, there were 4 brothers who were all outstanding players who played together for many years. Their names were from the oldest to the youngest: Porfirio, Arturo, Pio, and Sal Casurena. These 4 were the bulk of the team. They even played with other teams in the area when they weren't playing with their main Cubs team. They played with teams all over Southern California, parts of Mexico like Mexicali. I have also, through my research, found the team played with or against the late greats Gordon Maltzberger, who's in the Hall of Fame, George Castor. These are ex-Major League.
And these are also Colton boys. Yeah.
Colton, these are all Colton boys.
Uh-huh.
Who's in the Hall. Future Major League leaguers, Lefty Faulkner, James. I had read about him, and then I read in the thing where he was an ex-Major League. So you're talking about 3 Major League ball players that either played against or for these teams with the Cubs. This shows you how good these players were. Some of them could have been Major League leaguers if they were allowed, but we all know how things were done during those days. And I'm including the Negro leagues, what they did to them, and how many would have made the majors, but they already got too old. A few of them made it, like Satchel Paige, and Jackie Robinson was a young guy, but there was Josh Gibson, who was the best. He hit more home runs than Babe Ruth did. The other team members who were just as good were a young man whose name was Milton Noriega. Milton.
The
He was a
owner of the
pitcher.
Sombrero Cafe. Yeah.
The owner. He built it. And it was a Sombrero Cafe and Dance Hall back in the early 30s. Another great player was Tilo Duarte, not Teo. Teo was his son.
Before you leave Milton,
Yeah.
what was his position?
That I would have to look. I have
No,
it.
that's
here.
okay.
I have it here. He was Milton was a pitcher. I just mentioned that.
Okay.
Another great player was Tilo Duarte, who played many years with the team. His son Teo Duarte went on and played with the original Colton Mercury baseball team. They played for so many years. Other players were Ambrosio Gonzalez and his brother Joe Gonzalez, who I found kind of late in my looking at finding teams. And
Going back to Teo Duarte,
Okay.
did he marry Porfirio Castorena's daughter,
Exactly.
Carolina?
Exactly. That was so. Here are two fathers who one had a son, one had a daughter, and they got married.
Mm-hmm.
And Theo became, he was a great player.
He was a third baseman,
I think so.
right?
And through that marriage, he's got a grandson who was signed by the Giants. And I'll have his name here later on somewhere in the thing. But he was signed, but he messed up. He was a pitcher, but messed up his arm, and that was it. But he played for about 6 years. Didn't make the majors.
What was his name?
Um,
Will it come?
It'll be here. Or David Kinowski. That was a tongue twister for me.
Yeah, I get you.
But yeah, but a lot of this.
Go ahead then.
So like I say, that bloodline just went on.
Yeah.
From the Casuenas and Duarte, and then the Duarte to his grandson.
Mm-hmm. So I would imagine that baseball was not only a sport, but also it was a way for people to get together,
Exactly.
socialize, party, and then be able to meet, sons and daughters of the players.
Fellowshipping,
Okay.
and that's great. That's part of life.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Of course, there was Ambrosio Gonzalez and his brother Joe Gonzalez. I still haven't found any of their family. I have my cousin, who's Carolyn Lujan, married Tony Gonzalez, who's related to them, and he's going to give me some information as if there's any family besides himself. But if we couldn't find any, I had for him to show up at the induction. There was also Andres Negrete, who I haven't got a lot of information about him. And I know there's another Negretes in Colton, but that's going to be, that's my project now, to find the families. So they'll be there during the induction. There was Juan Hernandez. That was Luis Hernandez's
Louis Hernandez's father.
dad, yeah.
Also related to Henry, who's across the table from us.
Mm-hmm. And also, of course, he had his son Louis and Pete Hernandez.
Right.
Yeah, he lives here on Citrus. So, and I already talked to them. And he worked, Juan Hernandez worked for the city for a long time. I'm not sure if he always there or if he worked someplace else before. There was also Cayetano Calderia, whose son Chon Calderia played on the 1954 Little League World Series team.
In Williamsport.
At Williamsport with Ken Hubbs and all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
So and they're in the hall also.
The Little League team that went to Williamsport is also in the Hall of Fame. Okay.
And the 56 team, the one that went a year after that, or the year they skipped a year, they went to Williamsport.
And who were there any Latinos on that team?
Chon
Besides Chon, and who else?
There was I think there was another one, but I can't recall his
Danny.
name. Oh yeah, Danny Carrasco. How
Danny
could I forget
Carrasco,
him?
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Danny. Those are the only two that I know. Because Danny graduated a year after me, and Chon graduated in 1960 with me.
Okay.
So, but I think there was another one, but I couldn't, because he moved out of town at an early age, and I didn't know him. And I think that's what put Colton on the map. Of course, they got national coverage, There was Manuel Gaitan, who also played for the Central Cub team. And I think his son, Manuel, Sandy, went to school with you.
He graduated with me
Yeah,
from high school.
exactly.
And tell me about Manuel Gaitan. I had no idea that he was a ball player.
Well, Manuel, Sandy, his son, was always telling, my dad played for this and that. He was signed by the Giants, never got to play, but he kept telling me about him. And I said, well, come and see the pictures I have. I always invited him, but he never But during that book that Cal State made, they have a picture of him. So I did my homework, and he did play with the
He was
Centrals.
recruited for
The New York Giants. The New York Giants. because,
And
you
why
know,
didn't he decide to
Well,
not to go to the to the major
the story with him is that he was engaged. He was going to get married, and I guess he had to choose between the two, and Mama won.
They do it all the time.
Yeah. But I will never know what would have happened.
Yeah.
But just to get recruited or you know is a great thing
And
anyway.
what year was that Mel got recruited?
I think that was in probably in the 30s.
In the
sometime.
30s?
Yeah.
In the
Yeah,
30s.
He was still young.
That's a wonderful surprise. I had no idea.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a wonderful surprise. And then their story, their
Yeah,
little
Sandy
Romeo
would-
and Juliet story.
Yeah.
Very
Sandy
nice.
would know that.
Yeah.
His son. The other team members who were just as good were a young man whose name was, I already did that, the Milton Noriega. Taya Duarte, Mango Gaitan. But decided not, this is Mango Gaitan, he decided not to join and stayed in Colton to marry his future wife. There was another player I found whose name was Juan Rivas. And he had a little store. Do you remember the bridge that crossed over to go to Wilson or Garfield?
Yes. Yes.
Right at the bottom, not on the Wilson side, but on this side, there was
Right.
a little store. And in the mornings we'd go, Rivas! We'd wake him up.
On the corner of 7th and Maple?
Yes,
Yes, okay.
Juan Rivas.
Uh-huh.
Now, it's funny because his daughter, Mary Rivas, was on my mom's team. Okay?
So the tradition has continued.
It's in the blood.
Yeah.
It's in the blood. Whose name was Juan Rivas. And he also had a brother. I never found out his first name. It was E. Rivas, something, and it was a brother that also played. As it turns out, Juan was the father of Mary Rivas, who played on the same team my mom played with the Mercury Senoritas, who were just inducted last year. As a footnote, I want to say that Porfirio's daughter, which I think we already ran over, married Tilo Duarte's son, and boy, what a bloodline that was. Teo's grandson, David Kinowaski, signed with the San Francisco Giants and played 8 years in the minors. He was later injured and could no longer play ball. Hopefully I have given you all in this panel enough history of the team that should not be forgotten.